It's time to harvest garlic. I planted my garlic late last fall after our first frost date and let it stay in the ground over winter. It's one of the first things that comes up in the spring. I always look forward to seeing those garlic shoots come up. It's kind of like here's a sign that spring is coming and the growing season is starting. And then I watch for my garlic to show the signs that it's ready to harvest. Now, if you have a hardneck variety of garlic, you'll see it produce scapes, and a lot of people have put videos out, and you might read things about harvesting the scapes, and the scapes being a sign that the garlic is about ready to harvest. Basically, it's like bolting, like a lot of plants will bolt to produce flowers, and it puts out this stem that comes up and curls around and produces a little flower head on the end, and you want to pull those off. But that's for hardneck garlic. The garlic that I grow is a softneck variety, and a softneck garlic generally is a little bit better of a storage variety, and we don't use the garlic that fast, so we want to be able to store it to use throughout the year. So I grow a softneck variety. It does not produce the scapes. So what I watch for is for the leaves to start to die back. And I've started to see that a little bit. Some of the leaves are starting to yellow a little bit on these, and I would have liked to see more of the leaves die back before I started harvesting. But what happened here is that my garlic has all started falling over. As far as I know, nothing caused this. We didn't have a big windstorm or anything that came through and knocked things down. I don't think Sadie has been rooting around in here. I think the garlic is just getting to a point to where those necks are starting to break over. So I'm taking that as my sign to go ahead and pull this garlic out of the ground. I've actually already started digging some of the garlic. I have about half of this little bed dug, and so far I'm really pleased with what I'm getting out of here. I have this really nice head of garlic. I can barely wrap my thumb and my middle finger all the way around it, so I'm real happy with that. Now, they're not all this big, but so far I haven't had many that I was terribly disappointed with. They're either about an average sized or we get nice big heads. So real pleased with that. We're going to keep digging and see what we get out of here. As you dig the garlic, your important considerations are going to be that you want to get it out of the ground in one piece. You don't want to cut it with your trowel or whatever digging tool you're using, and you don't want to pull the stems off. When we let this dry, I'm going to leave the stems on. The garlic head itself is going to absorb the nutrients from these leaves as they dry up. So we're going to let it dry with those stems on. As I dig these up, I want to put my trowel next to the garlic head, but not right up against it, because obviously then I'm going to be cutting into the garlic head. But just a couple inches away, push down with that. I got a little stick here that's in the way. Push down next to that garlic. I'm going to lift with one hand as I kind of pry with the trowel to pull that garlic up. I can kind of feel the roots. You'll feel the roots kind of ripping a little bit as they break free from the soil, and we get that out. A nice big complete garlic head. Kind of shake the dirt out of there. We'll put that in the bucket with the rest and move along. Once you get that soil loosened up, you can kind of reach down with a couple fingers and just even get a couple fingers underneath that garlic clove. You can just go ahead and pull it out of the ground. But when the soil hasn't yet been disturbed, it's easiest to start with the trowel. Now, when you go to cure the garlic, you do not have to leave the greens on, and some people don't. A lot of people will just cut them off a couple inches above the head and leave them at that, and that's fine. If you want to take your garlic and do something fancy with it, like make a garlic braid out of it, then obviously you're going to have to leave the leaves on in order to be able to braid that. For garlic or onions, when you cure them, you can leave the leaves on and they will absorb nutrients from those leaves. For some other root crops, beets are one example, you don't want to leave the leaves on. If you leave leaves on beets, then the leaves will continue trying to grow and draw nutrients and moisture out of the beets, and so your beets will end up shriveling up basically as they try to feed the leaves in the absence of the nutrients from the soil. Once I get these all dug, I'm going to be putting them in a cool place, basically in our basement. I'm going to be laying these out on a table until those leaves have kind of dried up. I am really happy with this harvest. The reason for curing the garlic is to prepare it for storage. Garlic, as soon as it comes out of the ground, could be eaten as it is. We could cut these heads and use them in recipes right away. There's no reason why we couldn't. But some crops are not like that. Sweet potatoes we cure in order for them to develop their sweetness. If you eat a sweet potato right away after harvesting, it will not have the sweet flavor that you're looking for. It's going to be more starchy. But the garlic is ready to eat, but by curing it, it'll allow the dry papery covering to form over the head. That will be more protecting of it during storage. Now it would be better to store this garlic where it was either hanging or on a mesh drying rack where there could get good airflow through it. This is not ideal, but this is how I cured my garlic last year and it worked fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I just want to let you know, if you can do it in a place where you have better airflow all around the garlic, that would be more ideal. But you do want your garlic to be in a relatively cool, dry place. You do not want it in the sunlight. It could actually start to cook the garlic if it has direct sunlight on it during the curing process. You want to leave it in there for a couple weeks until it dries out well. After that, you can store the garlic in a cool, dark place. You want it to be fairly cool, under around 70 degrees, and the length of time your garlic will store depends on the type of garlic. Like I mentioned, a hardneck garlic is not going to store as long as a softneck. So if you grow both hardneck and softneck, use your hardneck garlic first and then store your softnecks. I have a cat who loves to chew on the garlic and onion leaves. I guess that's a delicacy to her. So she's here trying to get to it. This is a 6-foot long table, and this is the amount of garlic that I grew in a 4x4 bed. So it produced pretty well for me this year. I'm really happy with this quantity. You do not have to cut those roots off. You can. They will just dry up on there. And actually, here's a little tip and something that I heard. When you buy garlic in the store, a way to tell if you are getting domestic, American-raised garlic versus garlic that's imported, say from China, is that the imported garlic has to have the roots cut off. That's one of our customs import requirements, I assume, so that the roots can't harbor any sort of insects. Now I'll cover these up, keep them out of the light, and just let them rest for the next couple weeks. I find that garlic is one of my least labor-intensive crops to grow. I put it in the ground in the fall. I start out when it first gets shoots in the spring by giving it a balanced all-purpose fertilizer, balanced between nitrogen and phosphorus. And then a couple months before harvest, I will give it some bone meal to really hit it with phosphorus to develop those roots. Other than that, there's not a lot that I have to do with it other than just some general weeding. And if your garlic patch grows up fairly thick, the weeds probably won't get too bad anyway. So if you're looking for something to add to your garden that's easy to grow and yet very useful, I think about everybody uses garlic in some way or another, then I would really recommend putting garlic into your garden. Like I said, this batch of garlic that I just harvested was from a 4x4 raised bed. So you don't need a lot of space to plant it. I appreciate you hanging out as I harvested and got the garlic ready to cure, and I hope you found this useful and informative. If you did, you might also like this other video that Google has selected, especially for you. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.